beautiful. I just want you to know you are my favorite. Bill. Shout out to Pharrell, Neptune, Snoop Dogg for that song. Great song back in the day. Here we go. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It narrowly passed, I think, 215 to 214 in the House. And President Trump wants it to be enacted and in law by or before July the 4th. What's happening is that according to a couple of news outlets, BBC, CBS also, that I looked at, are saying that there is some resistance from some of the Republican senators because, of course, it needs to get through now. It got through the House narrowly. Now it needs to get through the Senate. So a way to, although the Republicans do run the Senate, I think it's, 53 to 47? Yeah, 53 to 47. And I'm sorry, 53 to 45 with 2 independents. And we also know that the vice president gets the final vote in case of a tiebreaker. What needs to happen is that the president is hopeful that he's been getting on the phone with different senators trying to convince them to have to be on board with supporting the One Big Beautiful Act, or bill, as a lot of people are saying. A big part of the resistance that he's running into is when it comes down to Medicaid. What they're saying is that with the proposed cuts that he's making, there are going to be, starting around, well, going up to about 2034, there'll be about 9 million people who won't have any type of insurance. And it's going to make Obamacare, which is the Affordable Care Act, extremely hard to get because it's going to be much more expensive. So it's going to cause a huge issue in the marketplace when it comes down to getting affordable insurance. And they're saying, yeah, by 2034, that could balloon up to 14 million people. So, and in a lot of these states, because people don't know, a lot of the poorer states are some of the states that voted for Trump. You know, I think a lot of times there's this thought that it's just a lot of people in inner cities that need this help. But the people that need the help are around the entire country. And there are a lot poorer places than inner cities. So a lot of Republicans who get a lot of these votes in some of these rural areas or smaller, poor states, a lot of their people are on welfare or SNAP benefits. That's another one of the benefits that they want to cut. Like, so if people get food stamps, things like that. So he's looking to make those cuts also. So we got to realistically think there are a lot of cuts. We already know what he said about Section 8 before. There are a lot of cuts that he wants to make. Some of the additions that he wants to make is that he wants to add $350 billion to security as far as immigration, as far as protecting the border. For all of you great people that voted for him who are still worried about immigration, he's going to add $350 billion to it. Now, the reticence of a lot of even the GOP senators, because we know, most likely the 45 Democrat senators are not going to go along with it, is because not only because a lot of their constituents benefit from those benefits, but also because they don't want to add to the national debt. Now, one of his deals is always, we're going to lower the debt, ceiling and all this other kind of stuff. Well, right now, America is approaching, and they're saying, because I've seen a couple different reports, anywhere from $36.2 trillion to $37 trillion. Currently, America is in debt. So with this bill being passed, they're saying he may save around $1.4 billion, but ultimately it's going to raise the debt ceiling to at or over $40 trillion. $40 trillion. Now, me, I'm just doing a brief synopsis for this, for us, but, definitely I would encourage everyone to go and look at it. They have stuff online. I think the document is about 1,000 pages long. So I'm not expecting people to go through that, but I know the BBC did a good job with highlighting about 3 or 4 of the main sticking points. And I know one of them was they were talking about how, people are going to save money because of overtime. So people who work overtime or work for tips or whatever, certain stuff they don't have to report, they'll get more money back or in their paychecks based off of that, based off of this new bill. So, but once again, people who are still the rich still don't get affected as much as far as tax wise. That was one thing. The other thing, like I was talking about, is as far as even with Medicaid, where, that's going to be affected. You're going to have a lot of people who are disabled, who are poorer or disenfranchised or elderly, who are going to get cut off of a lot of these Medicaid / SNAP benefits. And when you think about something like that, this is why people really want people who understand people, whether you agree with them or not. They understand people. Everything isn't just business as usual. There has to be some type of, and what I'm saying about that is that politics are different. Why are politics different? Politics, in my estimation, are different because you are dealing with people. You are dealing with masses of people. You are dealing with over 330 million people. So when you deal with that mass amount of people, you just coming in saying, "Oh, let me take from this, let me do this, let me do that." You not only destroy the morale of people in the country, but you start having people think, "Hey, what in the world is going on? How do I got to look around? Do I got to worry about this? Do I have to worry about that?" You don't just go and do that in mass form. If you feel as though it's fiscally advantageous to get rid of people, you do it in a certain way. I.e., we've all worked at a job before. We've all seen, I remember the one psych hospital that I worked at. It was unfortunate, but what they did was that, they kind of put it out there to people that, they were getting rid of certain people. So we had a large research department, and a lot of people know that typically research, development, those are the departments that typically get cut first. So we had people who had been there for years doing just different research and stuff like that. They were cut out. They were laid off. And, it was done slowly but surely. And more of the frontline people, nurses, of course, not doctors, techs, other workers, wasn't really affected by that. Maybe some reduction in hours of overtime, but they weren't affected by that. But still, even with layoffs at a typical job, you got to kind of, for the most part, unless it's private industry, even when it's private industry, they typically ease out of it and they give people a good severance package and give people the opportunities. Because even when I worked for a private company, they gave us, which was great, they gave us 2 months. They kind of let us know what was coming down the pike. All of us that were smart enough knew, hey, listen, you know what? They're getting rid of us. They're getting rid of us. So they gave us 2 or 3 months to sit, to use their computers, to use whatever resources that they could provide, still allowed us to come to work, paid us for 3 months, and gave us a severance on the way out of the door. So if you feel as though there are cuts that need to be made, this is the way you do it. You don't just go in and run roughshod over people and telling people, oh, you got an hour, you got 15 minutes before we get rid of you, because we all have been in a situation before where morale gets low. When morale gets low, anything's liable to happen. People, unfortunately, that's where people used to go postal and come back to the job and shoot people and just do things that were awful. And that's not the way you want to run a country. Maybe that's the way you want to run a business, but that's not the way you want to run a country, because there are too many different parts to it. There are too many different moving parts to it. That's why it's called politics. That's the reason why it's called politics. Because you know what? You give a little, you get a little. You give a lot, sometimes you don't get back in return as much as you give. But the thing is that it's not a personal business. It's not a private business. President Trump is not your private business. Elon Musk, it's not how you would run Tesla. It's not. Is there wasteful spending? There's wasteful spending everywhere. There's wasteful spending everywhere. That's a part of, what goes on. There's wasteful spending in cities. There's wasteful spending in states. The federal government. There's wasteful spending even in the corner stores. Because there's always a thing called slippage, right? If anybody has ever worked in a retail space or anything like that, it's what they call slippage where, hey, listen, we understand somebody's going to steal 20 candy bars. We understand that somebody's going to steal 5 or 6 sodas throughout the course of the day. So that's why everything is done in bulk. When they get merchandise from whatever manufacturer or, business that they get their goods from, they get them in bulk. They don't go by and charge them for one and every single thing because it would be impossible. Because there is going to be slippage. There is going to be theft. That is a part of it. Now, was it a bad idea for them to go and start the Department of Government Efficiency? No, I don't think it was a bad idea. But you still have to have a way in which you go about things where you take your time, you go through, you audit, you do, because of course they know way more about business than I'll ever know. But I do know about feeling like somebody's just coming in and putting you out on the street. I do know how that feels. So just because you have one group of people, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, who are rich, you still have to be political and think about how that is going to affect someone else. Because, see, you guys don't have to worry about check by check living. And I'm not saying that anybody else does, but, you can't count anybody else's pockets because most people work a regular 9-to-5 job. Most people work a job where they got to pay for their health insurance. If they got kids in multiple family, it could be $300-400 bi-weekly. So $600, $700, $800 coming out of their finances bi-weekly. We got cell phones. We got all of this other stuff that maybe 25, 30 years ago we didn't need, but we have to have now. There are different things. And that's when good leaders look at things and say, hey, I don't have to live this way. I haven't lived this way. And if I did, I haven't lived this way in years. So why would I subject other people to living that way or being treated that way? And these are the things that I wish that people would understand when it just talks about being a good, decent person. Being a good, decent person. You don't have to agree with everything anybody says. I say, the president says, anything. But what you do have to understand is that you also don't want mutiny. You don't want a civil war. You don't want people feeling like, and it's funny because I was talking to a buddy the other day. When you got money in the bank, when you got money in your pocket, you sit up like this. You hold your head up high. Oh, I don't understand why they can't do this. I don't understand why they can't do that. But I'm going to tell you something. There are a lot of people, including some of us, that will be at the top of some stuff. But guess what? We are only one accident or one incident from falling right back down to the bottom. And we have to understand that. We have to understand that. We have to see that. And this is the reason why I say, when you vote for certain people with a certain mentality, you better watch out for what happens. Because most of us, especially our good African Americans, we don't have a lot of people that are out of the way where you can say, oh, I don't care about my grandma not having Medicaid. What you going to do? You going to pay for it? Oh, I don't care about, my homeboy's disabled son that's going to need certain SNAP benefits or certain other things. And I'm in agreement with some of this stuff. I'm not saying that people should sit back on welfare and everything for years. But what I am saying is that when you do something, when you try to do something that supposedly is one big beautiful thing, make it really be one big beautiful thing for the people that need that big beautiful thing. How about saying we're going to take $300 billion and create jobs in impoverished neighborhoods? We're going to start government assisted jobs in impoverished neighborhoods. We will allow you to stay on welfare or your SNAP benefits, but you got to come out and give us 10 hours a week of your service, 20 hours a week of your service, and you will be paid for that. Like, the way for society is not to keep taking from people that don't have a lot and saying you're lazy. The way is to say, look, we're going to give you the tools that you need to help bring the entire country up. Because guess what? Everybody's not going to work as hard as you. Everybody's not going to save as hard as you. So who are you to always tell somebody what they should be doing? But hey, that's just one guy's opinion. Let me know what you think. And I would encourage people to really look, think, see what this bill is, because like I said, it's going to raise our debt ceiling to over $40 trillion. All right, $40 trillion. And a lot of people may be kicked off of Medicare and, food stamp benefits. So, it's because it's funny. It's always the people who are elite or think they're elite or have money who always have this issue with sharing with other people as far as, let them go get their own. And, I'm going to do one today. But a good friend of mine used to tell me, Rima, today me, tomorrow you. But hey, that's just my opinion. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. And until next time, live life. Don't let life live you.